Hello, Serge here from the back porch. As you know, many times the daily lesson concerns a recent lesson I've had with one of my students. And I had one with longtime student Harold, and from the upstate here. And Harold's been with me about 15 years. And he just recently had some surgery on his left knee. He'd been playing really poorly for about the last year, and it wasn't until about 2 months ago that I found out that his knee's been bothering him for quite a while, and it got to the point he really couldn't play and hardly walk on it anymore. And he went and saw a surgeon, and they said it was all really messed up, and he had to get it fixed. And he finally called me and said he was swinging pretty good, and could he come and take a lesson. Now, in this case, sometimes I go down. I actually go to Harold's course because I know his head pro really well, and they let me work with him over there, and I go out and play 9 holes with him, so it's a good getaway. And in this case, I told Harold I'd be there about noontime. We'll have lunch first, and then we'll go do the lesson and play 9. Well, when we're getting ready, we're sitting down to have lunch, Harold reaches in his pocket and pulls out this little note, and he says to me, he says, "Okay, Serge, here's what's going on," he said, "with my swing." He said, "I'm feeling better, my knee's doing okay, and I'm actually hitting it, considerably better, but I still got the same old problem." He says, he says he's standing up too quickly on the upswing, and because of that, he's catching the ball thin. Number 2, he said in his short game, he wanted me to actually correct what the setup, have him look at his setup. He says he's having a tendency to look up too soon. See, there's that old thing. I pick my head up, right? And anybody who's ever seen my 10 major mistakes amateurs make is most people don't pick their head up. It's something that causes you to pick your body up. Because if you're trying to swing like this and you jerk your head up, that doesn't really work too good, and that doesn't really happen. You pick your body up somehow, and so he also said that it also causes him to decel the club. He says, when I do hit the ball firm, I tend to pull the shot left of the target. And he says the same for short and middle long irons is pulled left, including the driver. He says, number 4, I cannot seem to get the snap to the tee finish and hit the ball, solid. And then he says my finish is not right. So again, he's getting all these questions about the swing, saying that he's pulling the shots and he's coming out of the shot, he's picking his head up and everything else. Well, as I said before, and I'm going to say it again, I'll start with a question. Of all the things that we talk about, that I talk about in terms of what can mess your swing up, what is the number 1 thing that can mess you up? The big A, alignment. When I got Harold to the range, he stood up, and the first thing he started doing was he took out a pitching wedge, and he had a target out there about 70 yards, and he stood up to it, and I walked right behind him because I was pretty darn certain it was going to be the alignment. And he stands there and he says, "Okay, I'm aiming at that blue flag out there." And when he stands up there and he hits the shot and he pulls it like crazy, and he just kind of turns around and says, "See, there it is. That's all I'm doing is pulling the shot." I said, "Okay, let me see it again." And he stands up, and fortunately he stands up into the same alignment. I said, "Okay, Harold, drop the club by your toes." So he gets down here and he puts the club down by his toes. I say, "Come back and take a look at it." And he goes, "Holy cow." Not only was he aiming right, his toes were right. His toe line was right at a target. So when you take that out to the aiming line, he was at least 30 yards right with a pitching wedge. And so what's the only shot left to hit to the target if he's trying to hit the ball straight? You have to just turn on it, and you end up turning a little too much and you pull it. Because by the time you hit it, instead of being here, if you pulled on it, you're here, and the club face is already left of the target, and he hit dead straight pulls. Now, yeah, he could stay aimed to the right and try to hook it, and again, that's what starts messing him up, because every now and then, he'll get the alignment pretty bad, because now when he's pulling it, he's also letting the club turn over too much, and I started to see this kind of finish in here with the club over there, because he can't swing straight through. Because if he swings straight through it, he'd even farther right than 30 yards. So, alignment was the number 1 cause, without a doubt. All right? And then, after I see him hitting a few shots, he's also doing this. He hits a wedge, and his hands and arms are all the way up here, and his nose is still down there looking at the ball. And so I said, "Harold, you're talking about," I pulled out the sheet of paper, and I says, "Look over here, you're telling me that you're picking your head up, and then you feel like you can't Pop-Tart." I said, "Because you're not Pop-Tarting. You got your head down too long." And what's the number one rule about that? I want you to hit the ball, boom, and stand up ASAP. I did a lesson a while back about you have to release your whole right side to be able to stand up. But if you keep your head down, you can't release your right side. And so the whole concept of hitting the ball is after you make impact that you swing up and you stand up. But the head has to come up to allow everything else to come up. And he was doing the exact opposite. He was actually keeping his head down too long. And that's what destroyed everything. So all this time, he's been with me 15 years. But it's amazing how the body can really fake you out. How the mind can sense that what it thinks is going on is not it. And again, it comes down to that lesson after lesson after lesson. When I ask the students, okay, what's going on? What do you feel is happening here? What they tell me is in many cases the exact opposite of what's going on. And so therefore, the situation becomes, how are you going to get better when you're playing and addressing the wrong issues? And as I've told a lot of people, it's one of the best ways to play golf and to get better and to stay in tune better, especially if you're playing and when you're practicing, is when you hit a bad shot and you say to yourself, what did I do wrong? The answer is, who cares? Secret number 5, who cares what you're doing wrong? Do the next swing right. Go back to your fundamentals and try to do it right. But in this case, Harold was talking about fundamentals. He knew he wasn't quite feeling like they were right, but he was off because he forgot the number one thing. And that is the only exception to the secret number 5, what did I do wrong, who cares, is to check your alignment. Because if you haven't lost your posture and you can turn yourself around and put the club down by your toes, you come back and you check your toes, and you can always stand there. I always come over to where the ball is and put my hand up like that, you know, stand at a right angle to it and put it up, and that points where you're aimed. Because remember, you're not aimed where your feet are aimed. You're aimed parallel to the right of your feet if you're a right-hander, parallel left if you're a left-hander. So I always go and check this one because that really gives you the feeling of how far you're right. But if this is too close to the target, or especially right of it, you know you're way right if you're a right-hander, left for a lefty. So the only exception to who cares is check your alignment. I preach this. I beg everybody to do this. And as I've said it in the past, and I'll say it again as my closing remark here, alignment, alignment, alignment. Don't play golf without it. And the most important thing is if you hit a pretty good shot and it's to a wrong place, or you hit an awful shot, if you've maintained your finish, roll yourself back, put the club down by your toes, come back here and check it out. Because especially hitting a good swing making a good swing and hitting a shot to a wrong place, especially like in this case, if you're blocking it to the right and blaming it as a block or a push, that's blaming the swing. When in fact, if it was alignment, you just made a great swing. That's a swing you want to keep making. But if you dismiss it as bad, now your brain's all messed up because, wow, that felt good, but it's over there and I blocked it. No, you didn't block it or push it. You hit it right where you were aimed. Checking your toe line out will tell you that. So please, alignment, alignment, alignment. Don't play golf without it. 90 to 95% of all swing problems arise out of alignment. So if you hit those good shots to a wrong place or a bad shot, check your alignment. Drop the club and check it. Please, I beg you, please. And you'll see how much you're going to start playing better golf, because alignment really is a difficult thing to do. The eyes play tricks on us. So check yourself out, and you're going to find that if you start paying more attention to alignment, you'll start hitting a lot more good shots, which will help you shoot lower scores. Well, that's it from The Surge for today, and I'll be talking to you all again soon.